Hi, everyone. I'm Hunter Foster. I'm the artistic director for the Redhouse Art Center. Sorry, running a little bit late because we have some technical difficulties, which you do when you're sometimes doing this at home. So thanks everyone for joining us for Red Talks, which we do every Tuesday at 5:30, and this Tuesday's no exception. So we got a great show for you tonight. We're having a reunion of the cast of Dreamgirls, which is one of my favorite shows. I actually wasn't here when they did Dreamgirls at Redhouse, but I've heard nothing but great stories about the production. And so we wanted to get some of the cast members back together and sort of talk about their experiences during Dreamgirls and maybe some of the other issues that are sort of going on in our country right now. And so we're really excited to have them on. So first of all, I just want to say that we have a show that's going to be coming up this weekend. That's right. We're still programming our shows. And so this weekend is going to be Still Waiting, which is the sequel. That's right. It's the sequel to Waiting for the Host, which was the online Zoom play, which we did. Actually, we streamed last weekend, and we streamed it a couple weeks ago, and so now we're doing actually the sequel. And so it's written especially for us. I went to the writer Mark Palmieri and I said, "Can you please write us another show, because we loved the first one so much," and he did. And so we're going to be streaming that this weekend, and we have a new cast member, Jeremy Kushner. Broadway's Jeremy Kushner is also going to be a new character on this. And I keep telling them, I'm like, this should be like a Netflix series. Like, we should turn this into a whole series, which who knows, maybe that's what we'll do. So yeah, we have some great stuff coming up. We also have our summer camps. So if you have some kids at home, and I know they've been home a lot. So if we're actually going to have some in-house summer camps. We've been going through a lot of safety protocols, making sure that it's going to be completely safe. And we have some great teachers and a lot of great things that are happening this summer. And that's going to be in July and August. A lot of great camps. Please check us out. Please go on our website, theredhouse.org, where you can get some more information about summer camps, more information about Still Waiting, which is our sequel to Waiting for the Host, and some other things we have going on at Redhouse. And, we're still working every single day trying to figure out, what our future is going to be. We don't know yet. And hopefully we'll have some news soon. And just like every other theater in the country, we're sort of dealing with the fact that we can't get back together like as soon as we'd like to. But the good news is we go into phase 4 on Friday, hopefully. And so then hopefully, we'll get things more back to normal, which I'm really hoping for. And so remember, out there, please wear your mask. Please stay socially distant. New York has done a great job of getting ourselves and keeping the curve down. And we're much better than a lot of other places around the country. So, and especially Central New York, which has done an excellent job at social distancing. Another thing is, if you want to donate, every theater needs help, and we need help, especially at this time. There's a lot of great ways to donate. And you can go on our website, go under the donate button. You can give $5. If you just everyone gave $5, we'd have a lot of money. So even if you give $1, we'd have a lot of money. So, and that will help us to do our education programs, our camps, our theater, a lot of other outreach and great programs that we have coming up. And every donation helps, every dollar helps. Please go on our website and check out all the great things we have going on here at Redhouse. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our cast. Like I said, Dreamgirls was one of my favorite shows. I listened to that recording a ton, and I also got to see the show with Jennifer Holliday, which we'll talk about at the Muni several years ago. It was her farewell performance, and she had several farewell performances. In fact, I think she still is doing more farewell performances. But she was fantastic, and it was great to see her do that part. So without further ado, let's introduce some of our cast. And then just going to tell our cast, when I introduce you, please turn on your cameras and come join us. Joni Anderson, one of my favorite people in the world, Joni Anderson. Hi, Brianna Maya.
Hello.
Hello. David Coverman.
Hey.
Hey. Stefan Brunson. Stefan. Hi. And Tammy Reese. Hi, Tammy. LaRon Grant.
Hello.
Hello. Tamar Underwood.
Oh, come on, Tamar.
I'm coming. Hello.
And Tamar Smithers.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
So Tamar, I think Tamar Smithers, you're the one who's sort of like reached out to us about this whole thing.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? It would be awesome if we could do sort of like a reunion and just talk about sort of our experience, how we have grown from it, sort of the lasting impacts that that have come from that, and then sort of tie it into like, you know, what is going on today. So this is awesome. It's so good to see everybody.
I know.
Can you guys go around and just tell me, let's talk, just say what character you played or what you did in the show. Obviously our windows are, actually I'm gonna start at the top on my window with Joni.
Oh, okay. Hi guys. I was LaRon. Oh my God. Where was I? As you can see, I played myself. I was LaRon Robinson in our production of Dreamgirls.
And Brianna.
Hi, my name's Brianna. I go as Bree, and I played Dina Jones.
And David.
Yeah, I'm David, and I played Curtis Taylor Jr.
And Stefan.
I'm Stefan. I played Cece.
And Tammy.
Hello, I'm Tammy. I was a part of the ensemble. I was a stepsister in LaSalle.
And LaRon.
I played Little Albert, and then I was in the ensemble, and I was also the assistant choreographer.
Oh. And Tamar.
Wait.
Underwood. Underwood.
This is just like rehearsal.
Yes, I was just about to say.
I was James Thunder Early.
And then Tamar.
And I played Effie White.
I was telling the group before we got on, I said I got to see Jennifer Hawley do it in at the Muni. And it was her final performance. And so everyone was there, and then like she said she'll never do it again. Oh. And then like a week later, she's like, "Oh, I'm going to do it somewhere else." But she was, I mean, she was. It was something to see. It really was. It was amazing. So tell us, Tamar Smithers, what was? So you said you thought it'd be great to get everybody together. So talk a little bit about that, about this experience and when to get everyone.
Yeah. So this experience. First of all, let me just say that this was my dream show to do, my dream role, right? Dreamgirls. But I thought what was really special about it was included in our community show that we did every December, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so not only did we have amazing actors and actresses from New York City and in the community, but we also had students that were a part of the production as well. So they were aspiring to be where we were at. And I really think it was a great sort of exchange between everybody. And I don't think there's anybody that left that production without being changed. Something changed for them in a positive way. And I think those impacts are still with us today.
Yeah, I as an actor, director, I there's some things that sort of like change your life. And I always feel like every time you do a show, you take something with you.
Yeah.
And what is that? I mean, in general terms, like Joni, you've done so many shows at Redhouse, and like, what is it that you learn from a show that you take with you, and what is that experience like?
I think just the ensemble community nature of the shows that we produce. I think one of the things that I'm noticing, especially with social media, is how many of the babies that we worked with are now adults with babies. And so it's just to see that evolution and to still follow their stories and see how great they're doing. It's a very special thing to be a part of and to be connected to. So.
Yeah. And was there anything special? Was there anything specific about this show that made it special, or was it just the whole experience overall?
Well, go ahead.
I thought that was to anybody.
Well, I'm going to say my 2 cents.
Okay.
But no, I think it's so beautiful that we have Tammy in this forum, because she was, now we have your lantern hunter. So I'm so happy that is something that is now being cultivated as a continuous ritual and legacy that's now being created with Redhouse, but Tammy was the first recipient of our Redhouse gypsy robe, and
Oh,
it was great. I
special.
think we stayed up the night before closing, and I had the costume designer at the time. We found some blue. Was it blue? Right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
blue fabric. And she made the robe, and then like we put all the trinkets on it. We put we really took the time to make it something special for us and for that production.
And that boohoo cry.
It was really special because I mean that production, I don't know what it was of how we just all came together as a cast. And just we really wanted to send off that energy and kind of just cap it, and kind of like put our stamp on what we had brought together with each other. So I think that's
Joni, I also think it was one of those things where the talent was so
so
Amazing.
in that there was never like there wasn't a person who was like, oh Lord, she about to sing that song and we want to watch that. You know what I mean? Because sometimes that happens where there's like a weak performer, and I felt like everybody in the show just had so much talent that we were like, oh, we're really about to do something here, and I think that is a part. So having that plus the community made it extra special. Because it was like we love these people and we support them, and they really about to throw down on this number.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I mean, step into the bad side. Whenever we got to when we got to step into the bad side in rehearsal.
Yes.
Anybody who's done Dreamgirls, that number is just such a powerhouse number. And I think to do it in the space that we did it, it amplified that energy times 10. Yep. So I think to see when the kids got so excited when it came on, and it just, that number alone, I think really ignited, I think, what the process was going to be, especially once we got to it and staging it and putting all the choreography on its feet and putting all the music together, and like, oh, we're in a show now. We're doing something. We're cooking with gas.
And LeBron choreographed that.
LeBron did. Oh, LeBron. So talk a little bit about that, about the choreography. You were the
choreographer for that. I honestly didn't know anyone in the show as far as like what their dance abilities were. I just showed up and just like started teaching choreography in the cast. Like just went off. Like the very first rehearsal we put it together, I will never forget that. We were in the rehearsal room and the windows were steamed because they were working. And when we read that number, like they were working. They just took Step Into the Bad Side. And they went above and beyond what was expected. I mean, from the first downbeat with the guys at the beginning, then when the ladies strutted on in the middle of the number, it was just magical.
I'm getting chills.
It was magical. It was magical. You had no idea that a lot of the kids who were in the show did not have any dance experience at all. Some of them had never danced at all, had never put on a jazz shoe or ballet shoe or anything, and they went above and beyond what any of us could have expected. And it was just fun. And the number, because we started so early with learning that number, the number just continued to grow. So by the time we got to the show, it was sickening. Like the cast just really, it was sick. It was sickening. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So David, tell us a little about the space, about performing in that small, because you've been performing and you were in Miss Saigon. So obviously you're used to performing in these huge houses. I mean, if anyone who's been, I'll never forget all I know of Redhouse is the space we're in now. And then when someone took me over to see the small space, and I was like, you did what? How did you Dreamgirls in a con? Like, what was that like?
Well, my first show at Redhouse was actually Carousel. I think that same season, just earlier, or the season before, I can't remember. But they did it at a theater downtown. I forget which.
Yep, you were at the Carrier Theater.
Yes. So that had a bigger stage, bigger backstage and everything. So I was like, everybody, when I was coming to do Redhouse, was like, get ready for the small space. And I was like, well, this isn't that bad. So then I came back for Dreamgirls and I was like, oh, this is what we're talking about. You know what? It really never felt small. And I mean, Dreamgirls was like a big cast, but everything just got organized in a way. And the people were just so used to working there that, it's like staged appropriately. Everybody knows kind of backstage where to go and where to be and everything. So it never really felt like it never really felt like, how are we gonna do this? Or like, you know, for this to be over. It was just like, it's just like the magic of Redhouse, you know, what happens there. It's like working with, you know, seemingly against the odds, and then all these things get turned out, and you know, it's always a great thing.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. But no, but it's true. Like I only know this Redhouse, and so when I see that we did Music Man with like 80 people, I'm like, what? How did you do Music Man? with 80 people? How did you do?
Yeah.
I mean, Stefan, you've been there from so long, and seeing the progression from the past into where it is now. And what is that? What is it like seeing how the theater has grown from its early beginnings?
It's great. And the best thing about all of this is just seeing like the family aspect that happens between shows. And I'm noticing that's just happening all the way through, even with our new season. I have to just go back and just tell you guys something funny. When Tamar basically said that, you know, feeling like the weak link, I had to sing Family. And I was like, I'm the weak link. I have to sing this song. But talk about the support just from the family aspect, that I was like, oh, I can sing this song. I can sing just like Tamar. I can sing just like the other Tamar. I can do anything I want. And just seeing that, and just watching everything grow into our new space, that's the best thing.
Yeah, we all felt like Effie though. We were like, we got this.
We can do this.
Well, speaking of
and
Tamar, well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tamar Underwood.
No, also we also really wanted to do it too. Like we were very excited to do the show. I remember during the run, I got the flu, like between the first and second week. Like, and the Jimmy track is like, it's not a huge part. It's like a supporting role, but all the role is stuffed into the first 45 minutes.
Yeah, man.
You know, song after song after song. And you would just go out there and you give it everything you had, and then go backstage and almost fall out. But that's what it was. We all were so committed to it that like sickness or anything, nothing stopped us from making it work.
And so, Tamar, speaking of Effie, what was it like? I always think it's when you're singing, you're doing iconic roles and singing iconic songs. Like there's always something living up to that. You know, what was it like to sing that song?
First of all, it was just such an honor to be able to play the role and really move through the journey of Effie. But for me, I really wanted to make it my own. And while I definitely looked to Jennifer Holliday and Jennifer Hudson in these iconic roles, I definitely wanted to bring Tamar to Effie White. And so I think I did very well with that. And it was just such an honor to be able to do it.
Yeah, there's something about that. I mean, it's when you think about the show, I mean, there's a bit of a weight on your shoulders to sing.
Oh yeah.
Like that. You know, because I've seen polls saying that Tony performance, Jennifer Holiday's Tony performance of her singing that song, is like the #1 all-time Tony performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it must have been just, I mean, I can only imagine what it must be like to sing something and his song is written so, I mean, it's just an incredible song.
Yeah. And then really being able to tap into the vocal, acrobatics of that, and be able to sustain it throughout a 6-week run, but like 2 to 3 weeks sort of performance run. And so that was challenging. There were some times where I was like, Effie ain't got it today. Effie ain't like Tamar Underwood said, we gonna push through, and really just committing to and giving it your all.
And you were still working though during the day. I remember I was like, how is she like, I'm like sleeping.
Ooh, yes. So that was interesting as well. But it just speaks to the power of the dedication, right? Like we're all dedicated, no matter what we're doing, like we're truly, truly committed and dedicated to the work that we do.
Now, Bree, had you been in a show at Redhouse before Dreamgirls?
Yes,
Yeah.
the year before that, I was in The Color Purple with Johnny. And that's what
I was gonna say half this screen.
Yeah, right. We were in that too.
Tamar.
Yep.
I feel like, and Stefan. And
Yep.
Tammy.
And Tammy. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I've only seen 4 at a time, so I got
Just me and David. And was LaRon in it?
LaRon.
No,
saw-
I had just moved there. I saw it, but I wasn't. In the show.
Okay.
My brain has you in the show.
Yeah.
No, you probably just saw me in the hallways a lot, or in the lobby a lot, because I ushered
like,
for a lot of the
no,
shows.
you were-
No. They still start telling me stories about Color Purple like I was in it. And I'm always like,
Like, you remember that one
wasn't
time
in
in
Color Purple.
rehearsal?
Oh, I forgot you weren't. Wow.
Color
So
Purple
Bree?
girls were like really similar experiences though, because it's like, I mean, like what David said, it felt like we were like everything was against, we had this really small space, a huge cast, probably not all the stuff we need to make these big shows happen, but there was so much magic in knowing that we were going
Yeah.
like to do it no matter what. Like, okay, we can't fit back here, or one of we're gonna carry our mics stage because there were no hands to carry them on for us. And we were like, all right, so we're gonna carry mics on.
We're gonna carry mics on ourselves.
You don't carry the microphone. Or remember when I had to Bree, I had to dress you backstage to get you ready for the Dreamgirls. They're like, here's your wig, here's your dress, zip up.
I think that's the biggest thing, like for me, is the costume changes.
Yes.
Yes.
So many.
And the amount of help and support that we had, because with the old space, literally for Dreamgirls specifically, the lobby was the Dreams changing area. Like that, or anybody for that matter, that was their changing area. So literally it was like coming off stage. And I think the beauty, like Tamar Smithers was saying about a lot of these kids who are transitioning into this creative space and being able to work with older artists, like we were coming off stage and we have to chuck our, clothes have to go flying, and there's no real space to kind of be modest in that because the show's got to go on, So of course we have our undergarments on, our my mom likes to call them our what was she calling them?
What did she call them?
What did she call them? She was like, your undergarments are showing, Joni. Your undergarments are showing. Foundation garments, yes. But you just have to go. And so there were a lot of times I might just ask one of the kids, can you zip me? Because we gotta go. So it's that orchestra off stage that was happening while there was a show, happening simultaneously on stage is just a testament.
What I don't understand is like when I look in that space is like how you had a cast of 30 or 40, whatever it was, plus an orchestra, plus all those costumes. Dreamgirls is a big show. So
Plus
how
a full
did
set.
I mean, it's much bigger than Color Purple, right? I would think. I mean, there's just all the shows.
I think set-wise, it was definitely bigger than Color Purple. I mean, that riser alone, we were like,
yeah.
like when the whole cast was on stage plus the riser, literally, I'm looking at somebody like this. It's like you gonna get all of this show. You gonna feel all of this show. So, and I mean the audience, they love that. They really, really love that of being like right up in it with us, and feeling what we feel and our excitement, our highs, our lows. It's definitely something special to experience a show in that close proximity like that, because you get everything. You don't miss anything. So.
Yeah, Joni, I love the intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love it. I just love it. I love it. Now, speaking of that, it's troubling to know that, that's something we're going to lose for a while. That's the one thing that I'm sort of heartbroken about, is that, you want to have that immediacy. You want to have that intimacy with each other. And, but it seems like, we're going to have to figure out ways of doing theater, being a little bit more distant. So how is everybody even handling, the current situations aside, but just in dealing with the pandemic? And because I know that, like, for me, we did a couple Zoom plays, and there was something about rehearsing something, and you know, and being able to get back into the rehearsal room, even though it was just on Zoom. I mean, what's it been like not being able to have that sort of creative outlet in the way that we've had? We've sort of not been able to do what we all love to do.
It's definitely a major adjustment, but it made me realize that anything is possible because Zoom has become a lot of our best friends. I think it's a part of just adjusting. The industry isn't going away, even though we know there's nothing like live theater, the feeling of the audience and the cast that makes those bonds. At first, when the pandemic happened, it was very saddening. And besides, you know, a lot of, you know, worrying about my friends and family, I thought about the entertainment industry, especially with theater, like, where do we go from here? But with so many people who are dedicated, who are passionate and want to continue, it's going to happen no matter how it's adjusted.
Yeah, I think Bree made a good point. It's like you just do whatever, you make it happen no matter what.
Make it happen.
People just have this knack of just like making things happen. Even if you got 2 sticks and a sheet, okay, we're gonna do Les Mis. You got to
make it happen. Yes,
we're gonna make it work. We're gonna do it on
that too.
The rehearsal process is all about problem solving. And
period. Yeah.
Whether you're on Zoom or in a small space or in a space without an onstage crossover, you know, every theater, every venue has its problems, and then that's what the rehearsal process is for, is us figuring out those problems. So I think that going forward, that's what it's going to be, is we just got to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. And, you know, Tamara and I, I text Tamara all the time, like, do this here. We can do this. Tamara, where can we do this? Can we do this outside? Can we, you know, do this? I know, and it just seems like everything's sort of changing on a daily basis. But Joni, you're rehearsing something. You said you're at rehearsals now, so like you're in the midst of rehearsals. I mean, that's great. That we're trying to make things happen.
I think for me, the pandemic has kind of, as an artist, I think there's just the natural jitters of auditioning and looking for work and staying competitive and staying like, ahead of the curve. But I think the pandemic put me in a tailspin of like the extra pressure of that, because I see people, you know, just creatively going online and finding their niche and content and having all of this creative freedom. And that hasn't been my experience, you know, like being home with a kid. It's a different world. Like parents who are home with their kids, it's a totally different world.
Yes.
So when this fell into my lap, it was very timely, because my fiance, he literally ended his job on Friday. So like literally, and I started rehearsal.
Fiance?
Oh yeah, speak on that too. Yes. But they've been doing this production.
There was no love connection that happened during the production. Let's just say I keep it very professional. But a text message might have been sent after we closed, and then the rest is history. But because basically, like for me, when he was at work, I was watching the baby all day, and then when he would get out of work, I would go into work for my actual like 9 to 5 after he was done. So it was a complete day. So finding the space to be creative was hard. Like I would feel exhausted, and so like I would see people online doing all of this fun stuff, and I'm like, I'm not doing that stuff. So it's a lot. So when this happened, I was so relieved to just get back into that space of feeling like a creative again. And it's a piece that I've done before. So that was already kind of a leg up to not have to relearn something. But it is this new world of how do you connect with a person on the camera with all of the different, I guess, not setbacks per se, but what happens when you're doing something virtually, the lag. Our show has a lot of music in it, musical moments. And so finding how that works with trying to harmonize with somebody you're not in the same room with. So, you know, we have to, figure out different alternatives. But yeah, getting back into that creative space, I think is so needed, and finding I guess not the time, but like just finding where you fit in this new virtual world. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's become, 3 months ago, I didn't know what Zoom was. You know, I'd heard it, I was like, and then now we're all like Zoom whizzes, except for, you know, you think you know it, and then you run into like all the technical problems.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, push a button. It's not going to. Why isn't it going to Facebook? Why are we not live? You know, I get people texting me going, "You're not live." I'm like, okay.
Everybody, calm down. We're gonna put the fire out.
And then you're live, and then you're like talking like this, and then someone texts you, goes, "You're live right now," and you're talking about people.
It's crazy.
Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say that's the thing too about monitoring your mic when you're on and off, especially if it's a scene that you're not in, and having to make sure, like, and then if you have to come in and have an entrance, you got to be paying attention to get your entrance. So it's a whole. I mean, I think that's the thing too. It's just like live theater, because I think all of us have had moments where you might have missed an entrance or two. So it's the same. It's the same thing with the virtual world, making sure you click that button at the right time. So, yeah.
So David, you were on the tour of Miss Saigon, right?
Yes.
And how did that whole come down when it finally, when the pandemic happened? And
so we were in Florida in the middle of March, and kind of as Broadway was closing, we were kind of still doing shows that week. I think Broadway closed in the middle of the week, and we were kind of just waiting for the hammer to fall on us, you know, because we were like, we know it's coming, but at the same time, we want to keep working because we didn't really know what the pandemic was going to turn into. It's like, how serious is this? How widespread is it going to be, you know? But of course, we wanted everybody to be safe. And so at the end of that week, our producers decided with city officials and for upcoming cities that we were just going to take 2 weeks off. Then we had a scheduled 2-week layoff. So we were going to be like a month. You know, this will all be handled in a month, right?
Broadway's coming back in April. Broadway's coming back April 12th.
Right. The naivety of it all, you know, because of course, you know, we're still dealing with it. But so we were originally supposed to close, actually, this past Sunday was our original close date. So we had to close a little bit early. And I think just for that, with all the actors that kind of went from having a job, and especially with like these tours and Broadway shows, you feel like you finally have a little bit of financial stability, you know what you're doing week to week to week, you know, and then to kind of have that rug pulled out from under you, it is very jarring. And it's like, you know, so you kind of had to steady yourself. For me, at least, I had to steady myself again and be like, all right, okay, you know, that's done. Now we're in this new place. You know, actors are so resilient and the theater community is so resilient. So for me personally, I just like took a breath, and now I feel like, you know, I'm back to, okay, now what's the next hustle? What can we do? What can I do? You know, whether it's with Black Lives Matter or just within the industry, as far as like getting art put out, creating for myself, working on things that I wanted to work on. I'm like, well, now I have time to learn that role that I never had time to do, you know? So I guess I'm just trying to look at the blessing and everything, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, to pivot to that a bit, you know, it's sort of remarkable to see what's happened over especially the past few weeks, that may not have happened if we hadn't had this pause. Yeah. Like, it's really put a spotlight on a lot of things which needed to put spotlight, as opposed to, I think a lot of times we sort of just like, yeah, and we move on to the next thing. We don't deal with it. We say we're gonna do it, we don't deal with it. And then what's been really great is, I think, is everyone's been like, because people aren't working and people, we have to focus on it, and we should have been focusing on it before. But it's really to see the activism, to see I was part of the Black Lives Matter for Broadway, and went on to watch both of the seminars in New York, and just to see the activism, and so, it was so powerful to see everyone, casting directors and producers and everyone sort of coming together to sort of listen, you know, and to hear things, and to not sort of, and because this thing has happened, like there's a pause, and now, to me, that thought it was, and to see what's happening, is it's not something that burned out in one day. There's still, people are still happening, which I think has been great. And I know, Tamara, that was part of one of the reasons why you wanted to, you know, when you reached out to us about this as well. So we should definitely talk about it, because I think that it's been great to sort of hear from our Syracuse community, the artists here, the artists in New York, and for all of us as leaders in the arts community and how can we do better? How can we change? And as Stefan so eloquently put the other night, just do better.
Yeah. So to your point, I hope it's, you know, like you said, I really think that the sort of silver lining to the pandemic is that we have to sort of sit down and pay attention. And so it has afforded us the opportunity to really focus and really dive into the issues and address them. But my hope is that, this is not a trend. This is not, just for right now. And then when we do have some sense of normalcy come back, that it doesn't die down. Like these are definitely discussions and conversations that has to be sustained for true impact and change.
Absolutely. In the same way that, I was saying this the other day, I said there was something about the Me Too movement that felt very similar, in which it was something that you thought, oh, it's one of those things that'll die out, but then going and going and going. And then you had the big march, 500,000 women march after the inauguration. Yeah. And that has had such an impact on the arts and entertainments now. Like how men could treat women in movies and television theater, you cannot do, and it's sustained itself in a way that there are real repercussions to your actions. And so that's why I'm hoping that it's the same thing that happens with the Black Lives Matter movement, not only in the police force, but also in theater and all walks of life, is that there are repercussions to your actions, and therefore you must hold yourself accountable in the same way we do with Me Too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I've just been really proud, especially of it's been interesting seeing the younger generation sort of step up in a way,
Yeah. Because they're not having it. They're like, look, this is what we want. This is what's going to happen, and you can get what you can get left, right? Yeah. So love my young people. I consider myself a young person too.
Well, it's beautiful because they're picking up a torch. They're picking up, and it's almost like their voices can kind of even be louder than ours. And I say ours like I'm not still a young person. But I agree, Hunter. Like I've said it. I said it a while ago. As scary as where we are is, it's so easy to get caught up in what your daily survival tactic is for yourself.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever race you are. But this pause makes people have to stop and listen, and have to stop and think, and have to stop and check in with themselves and see what part they have played.
Yep.
Whether it be for the cause or against. Mm-hmm. And if it's been against, and maybe the against is not in a negative way, it may not be a malicious, but if you are not for it, then you're against it. I think that's the black and white of all of this, is that if your way of thinking and if your your mindset is not for the betterment of a race and for the inclusion of everyone, then I think you're just not on the right side.
Well, I think that also for white progressive people who think that we are being progressive and think that we're being liberal and we're Democrats and we vote for blah, blah, blah. It's eye-opening. It's the racist, yes, but it's also.
Yes, that's like the extreme, but the things that like you think are not.
Yeah, but it's for people who sit there and say, oh, of course I am. And you have to, look, I'll never forget this. And this is my own white naivete. When Obama got elected back, and I was a huge, my wife and did canvas for Obama, and we wanted him to be like, we were just huge Obama fans and wanted to be like the president. And we have our friend, a black friend of ours, one of our best friends, and he got elected. And I said, "Isn't this amazing?" And she goes, "I guarantee you, it won't change a thing." I said, "Of course it will." Yeah. Of course it will. She's like, no, she goes, "It's not going to." She goes, "I guarantee it's not going to change a thing." And then all of a sudden, like 12 years later, she goes, she's like, "I told you."
Wow. Like, you see where we still are?
You thought, oh yeah, a black president's going to change everything. Nope.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like a step in the right direction. With all of these things, we wish all these movements could happen faster. I think, but like you said, it's that I think a lot of white people in this country just thought, well, civil rights already happened. We've solved the issue, but yet none of them in their own lives really know people of color or work with them or their kids go to school with them. And so they don't really see it, But I think, like Joni was saying, it is a call to action, and it's a call to action on all sides, because we as actors of color have to now keep that mantle going and say, okay, well, the kind of behaviors that we tolerated before and said like, well, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to say anything. I'm worried about myself losing a job. I'm worried about them not liking me anymore and not getting hired back. I think we have to stand up and also help educate, and say like, well, I see where you're coming from, but actually this is how we speak on that, or this is actually what happened in that situation or with this type of person. And then from the other side, from kind of like the non-Black side or non-colored side, you have to, like, I think the liberal progressives are also realizing like, oh, I thought I had all my stuff under control, but you're seeing like how these little things also can affect. Maybe my ideas on the shows I'm programming are a little slanted towards what I think will sell, and maybe what I think will sell would be more white shows, and so there's like sort of a shift, I think, that everybody kind of has to happen, and just an awareness to hear the information and then decide where you fall within helping things get better,
Right, and I think it's keeping the conversation going. It's not letting this moment die.
Yes.
Not letting this moment just be another, it's like I said, and I use the Me Too movement because I feel like, the Me Too movement is still having repercussions. There's still men being fired for sexual harassment. So we have that has continued on. This has to continue on, and we have to help it to continue on. And I think what's also remarkable, and I think the Reverend Al was saying, in the 60s, it was just African Americans, marching. So now it's everyone's marching. It's more diverse, and people are people. I went to the one in Syracuse, the big one they had on Saturday here in Syracuse, and it was just great because it just felt like it was this community of people. It wasn't just one side. It was just everyone. It felt like it was the whole Syracuse community was being represented.
Because tolerance in any direction really advances. It helps everyone. It's like, just because I have a space doesn't mean you don't have a space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we all take up our own space. And so we all there's room at the table for everybody. And I think that is what younger people realize, and kind of what is trying to be shown to the rest. It's like, there's kind of this mentality like to secure your own self and secure your own family, and kind of just like, you don't think about the kind of ripple down the river that's happening, And so now I think with the pandemic, we all kind of got reminded like, yes, this is a human race. We're all in the same world together. We're all going through the same thing at the same time. And so I think in that way, it kind of humbled us all to also look laterally to our brothers and sisters of whatever race and whatever poverty lines or whatever, and say, we're all dealing with this, And so I think that is a good thing about the pandemic, to just wake us up.
Yeah.
And it also forces folks to listen too, I think.
Yes.
Even myself, I find myself needing to listen because, I grew up, I was the only Black kid in the school. So like, I forget who said it, but I think Joni, you do things to survive. And so that just is ingrained in my daily life. Is like, oh, I'm the only Black kid here. I have to figure out how to survive this situation and possibly thrive in this situation. So a changing landscape, it requires a change in myself as well, and my mentality. So I have to listen to other people that have different experiences than I do as well. So I think that there's a lot of listening that needs to happen with everybody. Because not everybody has the same experience. And so if we listen, we can learn how to adjust every situation to accommodate everybody.
And I think with that, Tamar, across the board, we are in a time that not knowing is not okay. It's just not acceptable at this point.
Right.
On either sides of the fence. I have to, in order to be the best change agent I can be as Joni for the masses, I have to go and seek information in order to be informed of how I can be that change. And I think on the opposite side, it's not enough to say, oh, I didn't know. No, the information is so easily accessible at this point that that you can get some knowledge, you know, in order to be informed, in order to help change your, you know, original way of thinking. So yeah, it's just, and again, the pandemic has put us in a space of like, everyone has time to
You
be
got
able
time.
to be able to be able to learn, you know, to come out of this better, you know.
Right. For example, you know, I'm a black man. I knew about Black Wall Street as far as knowing about what it is, but I didn't know the details about it. So I went and I got a book, you know, so that I could educate myself. Because the thing is that we all grew up in America, and our education is skewed. And unless you really seek it out, you're not going to get the full picture and the full story. And everybody needs to seek it out so that we are armed, because when you're armed with knowledge, you can really make changes.
Yeah, as someone, I grew up in the South. I grew up in Georgia, and you know, I had a Confederate flag bathing suit when I was a kid, but I didn't know what it was. I mean, I didn't know. It's just our state flag was the Confederate flag. Our Georgia state flag was the Confederate flag. So to me, it was just our state flag. We didn't know. And so when I talk to people who, you know, relatives and I said the Confederacy, that Confederate flag does not represent the South. That is a whole connotation that you cannot. Yes, the idea that we've labeled it as a something that's represents the South is not true. If you go back and realize it wasn't even the not to, because again this is stuff that I just learned that I didn't know, is that the Confederate flag was not used in the Civil War. That was a battle flag that was in Virginia, and then it was used later on by Confederate veterans, and then adopted by certain Southern states who were for segregation and anti-integration. Like it was used as a symbol, has nothing to do with the South. And that's like you said, knowledge. I know that information in which I did not know until recently.
I am so here for a revolution like this. They say, like, you know, the good Lord works in mysterious ways. It took a global pandemic for a revolution like this. The other day I seen them marching for Black lives in Tokyo. I said, never in my life have I seen this global impact for people that look like us. Is monumental. It's powerful. And just the education. I'm so for spreading awareness on social issues, if it's on social media, if it's through the arts. A lot of us have not learned our true history. It's not taught in schools. So we have to self-teach and spread the information to other people. I'm trying to look at the positive, and all of these laws are being changed. People are, you know, checking themselves, checking their loved ones, seeing who their real friends are. Like Joni was saying, you know, you either you on his side or what? What's up? You know, it's harsh, but it's real, and everyone is affected by it differently. And I'm so here for this.
But
it's about time.
Can I say something that I fear? It's to bring the conversation back to theater. Is I fear that going forward, a lot of the work is going to be about Black struggle, and there's not going to be enough about Black joy.
Yeah.
That is a big fear.
Yeah, that's a big fear of mine, is that everything is going to be about the pain. The amazing thing about the Black experience in America is that out of slavery came this joyous culture. You know, this amazing one of the most amazing cultures in the history of the world emerged from slavery. And yes, we need to tell those stories, but I also I want to see stories about Black joy. I want to see Black superheroes. I want to see Black barbershops where they're just laughing and having fun.
Well, I think that's our. I think it's a double-edged sword, but I think that's our space to kind of help spearhead to not want to tell those stories. You know, of course, actors are going to want jobs. They're going to want to be a part of projects, but maybe not saying yes to a project if you feel that it's not going to continue to move Black people in a more forward space, you know? And I think that's I think that is kind of where we've been for a long time, that we want to work. We like, and because jobs sometimes are scarce, or there's only like one role offered, or you know, all of those things that may limit us, we always take the bait because we're like, we want to work, we want to be present, we want to be in the room. But stepping up and saying, maybe I don't, you know, all the time, I think it's a personal, you know, conversation with self, and you know, you can't speak to everybody, but I think that's a thing too.
Yeah, I just think the message to and hopefully we'll be at these tables more, but the message to folks that are programming theater seasons to remember that, yes, we need to tell the story of Black struggle, but remember that the culture that emerges from that also needs to be seen and celebrated.
Off of that, Tamar, you know, I was, you know, Ted Lange, who's a big, you know, friend of the theater, and you know, he's a playwright, and he sent me this play, and it's about 4 Black middle-aged women playing cards, and it's called Four Queens No Trump. And I read it, and I was like, oh, this is not about Black struggle. This is like 4 women who are successful, who just get together to play cards, and they just talk about their lives. I said, that's what we need. Those are the stories we need to be telling as well. Like, I think you're right. It can't just be every, you know, it's, and that's how you change. I mean, that's just how you, it helps change perceptions. You know what I mean? And I remember I was directing a show in college, and it was a show that was not about race at all. Nothing was specific about race. And I remember talking to some of the Black students, and they were saying, I said, we just want to do shows and not be Black, or like not specific at all. So we just want to be like, just a person, you know, I just want to be just the rock and roll star, or the person that works at the office. I said, you know, that's another thing, is that as opposed to being always pigeonholed into certain specific things.
Or the ingenue. I think there's so many classic musical theater pieces out there in the canon that you start to see. Like, I think it was great on Broadway that Joshua Henry got to be Billy Bigelow in Carousel, but at the same time, it almost felt like stunt casting to just say, like, you know, it's almost like used as a publicity device, I think, sometimes with having alternative casting. And I kind of want to change it from alternative or colorblind casting to just open casting, because these don't have anything to do with race. It's like we're not going against the grain with these choices. We're just saying that we're open to casting people as people. I mean, us as actors, we train to play humans, you know. So I think, you know, if you're not dealing with a show like Hairspray, where it really does deal with race issues, then I think just open it up. And I think, you know, but I think that's kind of what we're talking about in the industry. I think there's just a perception with casting people that, you know, Black people don't sing legit musical theater. They sing the belty number. They sing the 11 o'clock song, or they sing, you know, the powerhouse ballad or something like that. But, you know, we all go to the same schools. We all train in all these styles. We train in dance. We train, you know, in ballet and tap and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's also shifting a mindset in that way. It's like, why isn't it believable that, you know, this Black person could play whatever? I like Corbin Blue, is that his name? Corbin.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that he's kind of found this niche for himself in these sort of like golden age musicals as the song and dance man, like a Fred Astaire type. And I think that's great. And why not? But I think, you know, like Tamar was saying, it's great to see Black people just be there as Black, as opposed to playing Black in a role that requires it, you know?
Right.
The Blackness is there.
Right. You're going to see it, but you don't have
to see it
necessarily. Right. I mean, it takes all kinds. I think I just watched a documentary recently on Netflix called Disclosure, which is about the trans kind of movement in this country. And I think it definitely applies to Me Too, and it applies to Black Lives Matter and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, we're going to stumble along the way. Not every piece is going to be right. Not every, you know, even with Miss Saigon, we got a lot of flack on the road for, you know, kind of this archaic portrayal of Asian women. But here's the truth. It really happened. You know what I mean? Like this time existed in world history and in American history. But the thing is, if you're upset about that, don't necessarily take that piece away, because in the case of these Asian actors, that's a huge employment opportunity for them in this industry that doesn't really have a lot of choices for them, you know? So the thing is, don't take that away. Let's flood the system with more pieces, you know? We can have pieces about struggle. We can have pieces like, you know, a Hamilton or something like that, where it's giving opportunities to actors of color, you know. But I think just the more pieces that we have and the more options and opportunities that we have, I think that's how we're going to end up better in the long run, because people are going to see. That's when you start to change ideas about what it means to be Black. You know, I think there's kind of like, you know, probably like 4 archetypes that people think. You're either a domestic, a slave, a rapper, or a sports athlete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, Black people do much more. I think like shows like Doc McStuffins on, I think, is it Nickelodeon or whatever? You know, to show Black people as doctors. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes,
they have all the jobs, you know, but it's like, where are the stories about that as well? So, yeah.
Well, and I think that's the David. They were talking about the Broadway Alliance Coalition. Do you guys follow them?
Yeah.
And they had a 3-day forum, you know, and one of the actors was saying, you know, it's not solely about casting, you know, it's literally from the top down. The casting directors can only do so much, but literally if you have the head that is directing the theater or is directing the Broadway house like in the right direction, then that facilitates, then lets casting do, you know, a much broader job, you know. So it's more of an umbrella than just to zero out being like casting directors have to do X, Y, and Z, or casting has to change in this way. Because yeah, I think you're gonna have your stubborn group that want to see what they want to see because that's how they've been, you know, experiencing entertainment for so long. But I feel like people will be able to swallow what they're given if they're given something different, you know. If you go to a restaurant and you're like, you know what, I'm going to try something different on the menu, and you end up loving it. But it had to be presented to you. It had to be there to be able to be fed. So,
yeah. I also think that it's up to us, it's theater leaders, and we talked about this at Redhouse, is to cultivate, you know, the next generation of, you know, Black directors and Black designers and Black stage managers and Black musical directors. You know, I've talked to a friend of mine, and she says that there's in New York, there's no people of color that are musical directors, or a very small number of people. It's like, how do we start cultivating? So, because you know, not every show can be directed by Kenny Leon. So it's an even. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like every show is like, oh, here's Kenny Leon again, and right. You know, there should be, you know, we need more black female directors, which there are hardly any. I mean, we have a problem with female directors. You know, there's not enough female directors anyway. And when you add female directors of color, that's even smaller. So, you know, I think that it's starting and educating. You know, we've been talking about that at Redhouse, is educating from the very, you know, early on, and saying, look, you can be a Black scenic designer. You can be a musical director. You can be a stage manager. So then I think, because I remember, I think it was Amber Isaac was saying that, you know, she was the only person of color who walked into a rehearsal, and there's no stage managers, no musical directors, no choreographers, no directors, no one else except for her, and how that made her feel. Yeah. And so I think it's making sure that we can, it's how do we present those opportunities and make it so that people feel like they can go into those professions. And it's up to us to hire people and to be and to educate. And like I said, it's something that we're really talking about and thinking about right now. Mm-hmm. So well, thank you so much. I mean, I just want to go around. We're almost out of time. I guess we lost Laurent.
Oh, Laurent said he was only here for 20 minutes.
Laurent had to go.
Laurent had to go.
He had to go.
Before we go, though, I just need to go around and say, like, is there one thing you've taken? I know we talked a lot about the pandemic and the pause, and is there anything that you've taken away? That one thing you've sort of taken away from the pandemic that's changed you? And it could be about anything we've talked about, or theater, or I mean, I know that's. I always feel like there's going to be a world before, like 9/11. There's like a world before 9/11. There's a world after 9/11. There's going to be a world before this. There's going to be a world after this. So like Bree, what's anything you sort of taken away from the pause the past 3 months?
I think the biggest thing I've taken away is that it's so simple, but you can do more than you think by yourself. You know, especially as what we're talking about before, as theater professionals and artists in general, we already have to wear a lot of hats. But now that I've had space, I find myself wearing even more hats, which can drive me crazy, but I've actually seen more happen in the last 4 months creatively and artistically than I have in probably 2 years. I think we can do more than we think. And that goes with the Black Lives Matter movement. It goes with your profession or your health. We can do more than we think.
Great. Tammy, what about you?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly, Bree. No matter what we go through as humans, there's still good people out there in the world. So I do feel there's hope, and I want peace for everyone.
What about you, Tamar Smithers?
So for me, I have learned quite a bit about myself during this pandemic. Fortunately enough, I've still been working through, and I feel like I've been even more productive in this sort of season. But I am learning to be more gracious with myself. You know, Joni mentioned like, I see a lot of messages out there. If you don't come out of this pandemic with a new book, a new show, you don't have a full-on concert, you ain't doing it, boo-boo. But and so, and you know, for a while, I have definitely sort of played into that, right? Like, I need to be doing something. I need to, you know, I need to do this. But sometimes just sitting in the moment and really experiencing what those feelings are and those emotions has truly helped myself. And so for me, I'm coming out of this with the awareness that I have to be more gracious with myself and not be too hard on myself, because we in a pandemic. We're all going through stuff. Like, nobody has the answer. Right? So for me, that's what I have learned and what I'm working on continuously.
What about you, Stefan?
Well, for me, mine's a little like different. I was working full on for 10 years, and this pandemic was like a hard stop. And I realized in that hard stop, I had lost my voice. I just never spoke up for myself. That was like a hard thing of going, I lost Stefan in those many years. And it was like great thing to be home and going, I'm not going to look at my phone today. I'm going to go and I'm going to be Stefan. And I'm like, it's really great defining my voice again and just finding my path. So, and, you know, another thing I'm learning is to, you know, just slow down, you know, and you have people there who are going to help you. You have people who are not going to help you, and, you know, just get your way, you know, find your way through it.
What about you, Tamar?
I guess I've learned who and what is important to me. Because when everything gets taken away, you end up gravitating towards the people, you know, the people that you need to set up a weekly phone call with. You know, you learn the things that you need in your life, because you realize you don't need as much as you think you need. You know, like sort of piggybacking off what Bree was saying. So yeah, I've learned who and what's important to me, because the things that I felt like I needed to do for whatever reason that I haven't had the opportunity to do and I don't miss are the things that I realize I can let go.
David?
I think like Miss Smithers was saying, just like being okay with the grace to say, this is how I'm feeling today. And instead of trying to push it down because you have to keep going on to the next thing, you're, you know, hustling, running the rat race. You're just like, this is how I'm feeling today. And that's okay. I'm going to sit with this emotion. I'm going to process this. I'm going to deal with this. And I don't have to manufacture anything. And whether that means I'm going to take time off of social media and take some time for me, whether that just means self-care stuff is like a bath or like a show that I just haven't had time to get around to, you know, that kind of stuff I think is great. And it also has shown me that, life goes on even if I'm not doing anything. So, it's like I don't have to, for me, I feel like I don't have to fill it with as much stuff because I'm still me at the end of the day, And so I think that for me has helped like take the burden of, I think kind of what we all feel is like you want to be successful. You want to feel like you're always making progress. Don't waste a minute, whatever. And so it's kind of like for all of us, and for me specifically, it's been like, help yourself, heal yourself instead of this outward input.
Yeah.
It's been like, what do I need? What have I been neglecting over the years? And how can we help heal that or fix that?
What about you, Joni?
I am in the same boat with David and Tamar Smithers. Grace, to just allow myself to not be all things at all of the time. When everything first started, I literally was cooking every night. I was like, my family is getting full-on meals every night. I'm frying chicken, I'm baking macaroni and cheese, I'm learning how to do all these things. I think day 50 of quarantine, I was like, y'all about to get leftovers. I don't have to be all things all the time. And I think as far as creatively is that wanting to be the best creative that I can be, but not trying to push myself down that corridor too fast or in a way that is not realistic for me, my everyday, and being okay with that, and finding other ways to propel myself. That if I'm not actually being creative, making creative content, that maybe I'm reading something, or maybe I'm taking the time to research something that will also maybe get me to that, creative goal at a later date. But I'm pulling things into my arsenal. And I think with that being said, with, the Black Lives Matter movement, just really trying to educate myself more and knowing that like my voice matters, that even if my voice is still growing, that it's still present, and being confident in that. Because I think I haven't for a long time. And now that we're still, it's like I have to come to terms with that and like hear myself, listen to myself. And so I just want to gain as much knowledge as I can to be as much of an asset as I can. So.
Yeah, I think what's been really beautiful about this whole thing is that in great times of great tragedy, they're seeing there's a lot of beauty in how people come together. Mm-hmm. And whether it's for Black Lives Matter or for any of this stuff, like even yesterday, if you saw the race car drivers are all around the black driver.
Yes,
that was so beautiful. I watched it and was just started crying. I'm like, here we are in one of the most,
think about NASCAR, you think about
NASCAR, right? You know what I mean? And then here, all these white drivers are like, we're going to push your car to the front of the thing. It was so beautiful in the face of tragedy. And then I just think about it's seeing how as much as I sit there and go, oh, people are terrible and people are awful and they do these horrible things, you see such beauty in everyone's humanity and such wonderful things can come out of people during times like this. And seeing people just come together, when the riots and stuff ended, and then when the cops stopped spraying people, how everyone became joyous. Mm-hmm. People were singing and they were dancing and they were. You know what I mean? That to me was beautiful, and then it made me really made me feel good about the human race, because
there's hope for you. There's hope for us.
Yeah, but there's been some really beautiful moments that and how people have turned this into a positive. I think in a lot of ways. It's and it's been very beautiful to watch. So. Great. Thank you so much. This was a really great conversation with all of you. And, I wish I could have seen the show. I mean, it sounded like you guys just had an amazing time, an amazing experience. And
I was amazing. I just want to let you all know I was amazing.
Yes, you were.
Thank you.
But thank you so much. Thanks for being a part of the Redhouse family.
You're welcome. Thank you, Hunter.
I'm going to sign off.
Bye, everyone.
So I just want to thank this incredible cast that was here tonight. And we had a really great conversation. And thanks so much for all of you who join REDTalks every Tuesday at 5:30. We'll be TBD for next Tuesday. And we'll give you some more information about next Tuesday. And as we get closer to the summer camps, just if you want to go on our website, we do have summer camps that are starting July 6th. please check out on our website. And we have all sorts of summer camps coming up all through the end of the year. And please get your tickets for Still Waiting, which is our Zoom play, which it's the sequel to Waiting for the Host, which is our first Zoom play. So we're still trying to do theater here. We're still, as Bree said, it doesn't matter. We do whatever we can to make this work. And like I said, two sticks and a sheet. We're going to do layman. So anyway, thanks so much for supporting Redhouse. Thank you so much for supporting live theater. And we do hope live theater will return. In fact, I know it's going to return. So we will see you next time on REDTalks. And please check out our website, redhouse.org. Donate. We love you. Peace out.
Bye.
Oh, there's Joni. We're saying goodbye to Joni.
Oh.